we'll get your thoughts first, Gabe. You do have the Suns as your team winning the finals, but you are also a Clippers fan, so this would have been a bit of a conflicting game for you.
Tough game.
What did you see
Man,
from the Clippers in their first game against the Suns?
man, I saw a great basketball game because, two of my just beloved teams, they really went out there and they left it all out there. And the funniest take that's just so accurate is something that I think we're all pretty used to. And that is that Russell Westbrook is like the greatest player and the worst player of all time at the same time. The fact that you can be that bad offensively, but the fact that at the same time, Russell Westbrook was playing some of the greatest defense you've ever seen, making game-saving plays with the hustle, hopping out of bounds, throwing it at Devin Booker. Since when is Russell Westbrook like the best defensive guard in the league? Like that, what is going on here? He was getting like pokeaways on KD when he's trying to drive to the basket, which is a bit more understandable because they played so long together. I'm sure he knows some of those tendencies and good matchup for him. But like, hell of a game from him for a lot of really interesting reasons. I feel like there's no way that he can, 3 for 19? I don't think he can physically do that again. And if he started being that inefficient, I think at that point, Tyronn Lue's going to have to say, all right, bro, stop shooting the ball. But overall, like, what won the Clippers this game? It was his defensive effort. It was Kawhi showing shades of not just 2019, but 2021. He's known to have these times where he plays really well in the playoffs. Playoff Kawhi is a real thing. And so I can't even say I'm too surprised by that. It's just another classic, Kawhi's going to get to his spots and he's going to make it no matter what you do to him. That's just who he is. He reminded everybody who he is that might have forgot since he wasn't playing last year. Great things from him. They had some really good production from depth pieces like Eric Gordon, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell all had double figures. So a lot of that depth that I really hyped up over some of the later half of the season of like these are guys when they get in the playoffs can really help them out. And we thought, Eric Gordon, he was on the Rockets. They had terrible culture. He was doing some really stupid stuff there. Like, is he going to contribute? I think now you're seeing, now it's crunch time, and he's a guy who's been in these kinds of situations. Now he's contributing. Norman Powell, he was on a championship team. He's contributing. So it makes sense. And not every guy had a great night on the offense, but enough guys did, and they have enough pieces to where it was able to get them this game. On the Suns end, I got to give you credit, Devin, because we had two differing opinions on this before the series started. And I was like, they made the KD trade, and they still kept a solid amount of depth. So I think they'd be okay. And you had a really great point where you're like, yeah, they have a lot of guys that can like play minutes and that can go out there and be bodies, but they're mid. That's exactly what you said. There's a lot of mid depth. And you were 100% right. You really did not see a lot from this team off the bench. It was like the main guys, like, KD had a good game. Like Devin Booker had a pretty good game. Ayton had a pretty good game. Chris Paul, at least in the playmaking department, did his thing. But like, there just wasn't that extra push. And when some of the Clippers depth guys were giving you that, and a battle of two pretty good teams, that's probably not going to win you these games because, eventually your 1 through 5 is going to get kind of tired. And when the Clippers have 7 through 9 out there giving you great production, I mean, you're just going to get burnt out and lose at the end. And in a game that came down to the clutch battle like this one did, I mean, it really makes sense. The last note I want to bring up before I bring it off as well that a lot of people have been talking about is like the Suns were winning like every game with KD and Book playing, with Josh Okogie starting. He was in that lineup and he was playing pretty well for them. So I don't know why the decision was made to then bring Torrey Craig in the starting lineup for this game. I don't know if they'll go back to what they were doing before because this just immediately led to a loss. A close loss, yes. But I just want to bring up the fact that that's been getting questioned a lot from a lot of different places. I know they're both like kind of defensive wing type guys, but I would think you'd keep going with the guy that's working, just personally.
Or at least play Okogie more than 7 minutes, but I'll discuss the bench more later.
Yeah, I was about to say I only remember seeing Okogie on the court like for like one stretch of the basketball game. And I was like, damn, I just noticed I haven't seen him on the court, which was just kind of funny. Weird little, thing by Monty Williams there, I guess. Just game one, though, and the Clippers, that is the game that they have to win because you get the performance from Kawhi. You get the performance from guys like Norman Powell. Eric Gordon had a very good game. Russell Westbrook affected the game in many ways while having a horrendous shooting percentage, which is only something Russell Westbrook can probably do. Not many players in the history of basketball can go 3 for 19 and affect the game like he did. And he made a lot of great plays down the stretches as far as rebounding. And I haven't seen Westbrook defend like that in probably like 7 years or so. Like, it's been a very long time since we've seen him really like get down and really try and lock up. And he did a phenomenal job on the offensive side of the floor. And then Kawhi Leonard, just being the machine that he is offensively in the postseason, efficient, knocking down big shots. He was amazing. I'm doing it on both sides of the floor as well. This is a game that the Clippers had to win. Now there are valid concerns about the Suns. I think we, kind of had them like with the depth. I don't like playing 3 bigs. Like they gave Rondell, pretty decent amount of minutes. Didn't love that. I feel like his minutes were just kind of like, offensively, yeah, he might have been, getting his post touches and getting some free throw attempts and stuff. But I feel like defensively, just giving it right back, he wasn't really doing that great of a job. So, probably shorten that big rotation, I think, would be helpful. And another thing is when these two teams matched up a couple years ago, I know kind of different rosters, but pretty much the same cores mainly intact. DeAndre Ayton was able to really dominate the boards. It just seemed like he was kind of out there in game one. He can't lose that Zubac matchup. Zubac, I think, thoroughly outplayed him. And then when you add on to it Russell Westbrook getting all those offensive rebounds, to me, a lot of that points towards DeAndre Ayton needs to be more aggressive and control the backboards a little more, especially if he's really the main like big presence on the court. They don't really have anybody that's going to really grab rebounds with him. So it's like he kind of has to be that dominant force on the boards. That's kind of my big takeaways from game one. But shout out to Kawhi and Russell Westbrook for really controlling the games in different ways, but able to control the game.
Definitely. Playoff Kawhi showed out, and Russ probably had the best 3 for 19 game anyone will ever have. I have a few other points I want to make, but I have to talk about the Suns bench first. Because they had 6 guys come off the bench in a playoff game, which is odd enough on its own. 5 of them played 8 minutes or less, which is absurd. I don't understand that. The guys aren't getting rhythm. There's no consistency in their lineups. Like you said, Chuck Landale came in and got some time in the second half, but he went to Biyombo in the first half. Biyombo played pretty well. The Clippers have 2 legit bigs where Biyombo's a bit more defensively sound, is better on the boards. Biyombo's probably the better fit anyways. Why don't you just stick with one center? Why do you use 2 of them? That doesn't make any sense to me. I think Biyombo's the guy to use in this matchup. I had no problem with Torrey Craig starting, and shout out to Torrey Craig. He had a great game. He put up 22 points. But why are you just pick a wing? Why is Okogie getting 7 minutes and Wainwright getting 7 minutes? Pick a guy. Okogie played great for you down the stretch, and Ish Wainwright's been pretty good too. But Okogie was in your starting lineup until KD was back, and now he's getting 7 minutes, and you're still not even sure if he should be consistently getting your regular wing minutes because Ish Wainwright is still playing. And Terrence Ross minutes I don't get at all because he's just getting picked on defensively. But then of all the bench guys, you decide Landry Shamet should get 24 minutes?
He was
nothing about the Suns bench makes sense. They need to be using 8 to 9 max, not 11. Pick a center and use him for a series based on what's best for the matchup. Pick a wing that's based for the series between Okogie and Wainwright and use him for the matchup. Monty Williams might not be far off winning a Coach of the Year award, but how he's handled the absurd amount of mid they have off this bench and how he has designed those rotations have been very bad, and he needs to figure that out before the Clippers' very much better depth ends up being a problem. The Suns' depth ended up giving them 10 points off the bench. The Clippers had 34. That's something they need to figure out very quickly before things get too out of hand. The other thing of concerns for the Suns is I know this is going to be a heavy mid-range shooting team with DeAndre Ayton, with Chris Paul, with Booker, with Kevin Durant. They only took 19 threes in game one. They only hit 32% from three. And as good as this team is, they're probably going to have to shoot a little bit more from three in today's NBA to have success on a regular basis. They don't need to be anywhere near the tops of the playoff teams, but 22, 25 a night, hitting a little bit more, they probably need to get to at least that on a regular basis to have a regular amount of success. On a positive note for the Suns, they were relatively efficient from three with their guys from Booker and KD, and Craig, of course, was great. And the other thing I want to mention is Devin Booker looked really, really good defensively. One of his best defensive games I've ever seen in his career. If he can keep that up, that's really going to help their defense. They need to figure out the bench, because if they can't figure out their rotations and B can't get any production, which will be helped by getting their rotations figured out, they're really going to struggle against this Clippers team, who looks like they're going to get really good production from their bench this series.
Yeah, personally, if I was in the position to make these adjustments, I would just say, hey, Okogie played really good down the stretch. Let's put him back into the starting lineup. Let's bring Torrey Craig off the bench, and he can play actual minutes off the bench. Didn't really like what I saw from Landry Shaman in game one, but if Monty's got that trust in him, I understand. I would probably put Ish Wainwright in over him and play them, and then just pick, like you said, pick one of those centers, because overall, the center play just – you mentioned earlier about DeAndre Ayton, Tyrik. There'd be moments in the game where it's like, Zubac is getting the board and then putting it up, getting a second chance point, and then it's like, oh, DeAndre Ayton wants to take that personal. So what does he do? Well, he goes down the other end and he puts up like a little mid-range post fade. Like, bro, Zubac and Plumlee combined for 26 rebounds? Why is you taking it personal, a mid-range fade?
It's frustrating, man.
A mid-range fade? Like, bro, get on the glass. Why are you fading? Get in there. Dominating who? You're backing away.
It's so frustrating, man. Like, I just actually looked at the box score for one of the first times, and he had 18 and 8. Did not seem like it. If you told me he had 10 and 5, I would have really believed that. Like, it just seemed like just such a mid game. Like, just it was so nasty. And like you mentioned, Devin, like, just give Biyombo those minutes, because what Londale does might be good against certain matchups, but not when you're going against Zubac and Plumlee, who are very bigs that are gonna set picks, rim run, grab rebounds. That's what they do. Like, you just need somebody to match those minutes, match that intensity. And one thing Biyombo's gonna do, if Ayton ain't gonna do it, Biyombo's gonna play 110% every time he's on the basketball floor. So damn it, if you have to, give him more minutes. Like, even if it's at the expense of Ayton, if he's not bringing it on, on the defensive side, on the glass like he should be. So those are just some things. And just playing 11 players is like kind of nuts to me. I talked about being mad because Sam Hauser got minutes. I mean, you're playing 11 guys, 6 guys off the bench, and there's no consistency. I would expect Monty Williams, who's been to the NBA Finals as a head coach, to have a little more decency, in this realm. At least shorten your rotation a little bit. If he played 9 guys, I might not be as mad, but 11 guys is kind of outrageous. So hopefully that was just him. Maybe a fill out thing in game one. Hopefully he makes those adjustments. If I see more than like really 8 guys playing game 2, I'm gonna have a lot of questions.